Welcome to this week's episode of Weekly Security Nerd Out. Today, we're going to talk about something fairly basic: backdoors. It's how attackers maintain access into your environment. If you like what you're seeing today and you want to learn more about cybersecurity, like the video and subscribe because we're going to be dropping more and more information on cybersecurity. So let's start with a story because that's what we like to do here. So there was a recent Microsoft report around a backdoor that was using some software from 1999. Super old school, but still really effective. What we saw here was that it allowed an attacker 8 months of access into an environment that ultimately led to ransomware. So what is a backdoor? Well, backdoors allow attackers to maintain access into your environment. It's really just a piece of code that connects out to an attacker controlled server that allows them to maintain a network connection back to that system. Oftentimes, this is going to be able to allow them to execute commands, upload files, download files. The backdoors have many different types of functionality, but the core thing that it's allowing the attacker to do is to connect back into that environment so they don't have to go through whatever mechanism they did to get into the environment in the first place. So what attackers are using this? Really all of them. It doesn't maintain or need a lot of skill to get a backdoor. You can download them online. You just install it on the system. And as long as you're pointing it to a server that you control, it's all there really is to it. It's really that simple, but it's so effective because it allows those attackers access straight back into the environment. So we're talking mitigation techniques. Again, fairly basic. It's going to be the standard things. First and foremost, use endpoint security software like an endpoint detection response tool or EDR. That's going to help better detect and prevent these backdoors from being placed on the system in the first place. And we want to monitor for any outbound network connectivity that looks suspicious. So you can use some existing firewall technologies. There are other tech that's out there that can support that. But at the end of the day, usually these connections are going to a server or a system that doesn't really line up with normal network activity in the environment. So pretty easy to spot. And lastly, for today's episode, we're going to talk about Windows scheduled tasks briefly. Always monitor just to see, are there any weird, suspicious Windows scheduled tasks that would allow persistence on that system? And then we'll dig into that in just a second here. So I love graphics to teach and to learn, so we're going to dig into this here. So let's just set the stage. Let's assume that the attacker has already gotten access into the environment. They've been moving laterally throughout the environment. And so from there, we're going to assume the attacker, again, has access into that network. Now, they log into a specific system and they say, you know what, this is going to be a good system for us to drop a backdoor on. We don't necessarily need to spread backdoors to every system in the environment. We can cherry pick a few here and there to allow access in. So let's just assume that's going to be the case here. So we're going to mimic what happened in this latest Microsoft report. So we're going to install that OpenSSH software onto that system. Now, when we do that, we're going to configure it so that it goes to an attacker-controlled C2 server, command and control server. Now, it's using a specific protocol called SSH, Secure Shell. Now, this is going to create an encrypted tunnel between that victim system and the attacker's C2 server. And it's going to allow us just to transfer data back and forth, or in this case, allow the attacker to have a command shell on that victim system. Now, that's all great, but what happens if that victim restarts that system? That backdoor is going to go away. So the attackers are also installing persistence, meaning across system reboots, using a Windows scheduled task. This is something that's built into every Windows system. It basically just says, hey, at system reboot or at 8 o'clock every day, you can configure it however you want. Run this particular command, and that attacker just configures it, so it's going to run that backdoor and connect back to the attacker's command and control server. So from there, the attacker just has to go to that C2 server. He's going to be waiting for that network connection to come in, and when he does that, he's going to have access back into that victim system. So from there, the attacker can just execute commands. So in this little example here, we have the attacker just pinging google.com, which is just sending some packets out there to see if it's going to respond. That's it. Now, this is the foundation of backdoors. This is what allows attackers to come back into the environment. And they can get as sophisticated as they want with this. There's tons and tons of cool techniques, but this example is really the fundamentals, the foundation of how backdoors work. And the attackers are usually going to do this because they want to maintain access into that environment in case you do fix that initial root access or compromise that the attackers were able to get. So you see this in ransomware, you see this in data theft, you're going to see this in just about everything where the attackers do want to maintain access into the environment. All right, that's all we got for this week. If you like this, like it, comment, and subscribe. We're going to be dropping weekly things, and we've got some really cool courses that are going to be coming out as well. All right, we'll see you next week.